If you're watching this at night, be careful. What you're about to see isn't just a story. When they reached the station, the time was 3:17 a.m., exactly the same time the previous group had vanished. In Amir's footage, the station light flickered even though there was no wind, swaying as if someone was pulling it from the inside. The students tried to laugh, but their voices trembled. The laughter sounded forced. The camera tilted upward for a second, catching movement on the roof. A thin, stretched shadow slipping out of frame. None of them noticed at that moment. Only later did this detail terrify investigators, when Amir whispered, "Why is it so quiet here?" The microphone captured a barely audible rumble, like breathing rising from beneath the ground. The air grew thicker, colder. One student muttered, "Something is standing behind the light, watching." But when the camera turned toward it, there was nothing. And in places like this, nothing is never a good sign. When Amir lifted the camera again, the air inside the station had grown unnaturally heavy. The microphone picked up a strange, low whisper. Something not quite human, not quite animal. One of the students looked over his shoulder and whispered, "Someone is watching us." When the camera turned, the fog had thickened so much nothing was visible. But slow-motion analysis later revealed something terrifying. For half a second, two white points, like eyes, appeared deep within the fog. The students tried stepping outside, but the fog beyond the station had turned pitch black, as if darkness itself had replaced the road. Amir muttered, "It's dangerous to stay, but maybe even more dangerous to leave." Suddenly, a deep rumble rose from beneath the ground, shaking the microphone. Then came footsteps, long, dragged-out footsteps, not like any human gait. Whatever was moving toward them was not walking, it was gliding. When Amir pointed the camera at the floor, the concrete seemed to shift, as if something underneath was breathing. The students' breathing grew rapid, while the microphone captured a rising, low-frequency vibration. Dilshad stared at his feet and whispered, "The ground feels alive." Moments later, tiny particles of dust lifted from the cracks in the floor, as if something beneath was pressing upward. The footage distorted again, turning green with static glitches. Experts later stated that such distortion usually occurs near intense magnetic fields, but the station had no electricity at all. One of the students stepped back as a deep, resonant hum echoed from below. It was no longer breathing, it was calling. Then, along the station wall, something thin and elongated slid by slowly. Did the camera catch it? Only for a fraction of a second, but it was enough to terrify anyone watching. The rumble from beneath the Ioni concrete stopped abruptly, as if whatever was down there had reached the surface. The students' heartbeats grew so loud, the microphone nearly distorted from the sound. When Amir lifted his camera, a low, muffled whisper spread across the station walls. It wasn't any language. It sounded thick, wet, like speech underwater. Suddenly, Dilshad grabbed his neck. "Something touched me," he whispered shakily. When the camera turned toward him, no one was behind him, yet long, dusty streaks resembling fingers marked his collar. As Amir scanned the fog with his light, a faint shape appeared. This time, it didn't vanish. The creature extended a thin, bony hand toward the bench, brushing off the same dust that had been lifted moments earlier. The students cried out, stumbling backward, but the fog closed around them, tightening the cold and trapping them inside the station. As the students ran toward the exit, they felt the fog pushing back against them. It wasn't normal fog. It felt dense, alive, almost intentional. When Amir raised the camera, dark shapes flickered at the edge of the frame. These were not human silhouettes. They were twisted, torn shadows moving unnaturally. Suddenly, Jamshid was yanked backward by an invisible force. He screamed, "Something grabbed me!" When the camera swung toward him, no one was behind him. Yet long, finger-shaped bruises had already formed on his wrist. The microphone began to vibrate, picking up a strange, irregular pulse, as if something was standing right beside it. They rushed toward the station's exit, but the fog had solidified into a wall. Not a single trace of light could penetrate it. Amir whispered, trembling, "It let us in, but it won't let us out." The camera glitched violently, revealing a faceless figure for a split second. The fog wall blocked their escape, and the sounds inside the station grew clearer. It was no longer footsteps. It was a sliding, scraping glide, as if something extremely long was dragging itself without touching the ground. Amir slowly panned the camera, and suddenly a breath brushed the microphone. Someone standing unnervingly close. One of the students turned around and froze. When the camera followed, the fog darkened, and the shape of a faceless entity emerged. It hovered above the ground, drifting forward. Its arms were impossibly long, twisted at the joints, and its fingers sliced through the air without leaving any trace on the dust. Dilshad whispered, terrified, "It sees us." But it had no eyes. The creature paused, then shot sideways with impossible speed. The camera glitched violently, almost shutting off. Something was approaching, and this time it wasn't hiding. After the creature shot sideways and vanished, the station fell into a suffocating silence. Not peaceful, expectant. Amir slowly turned the camera back, and the microphone picked up a soft exhale. This time, the breath didn't come from beside the microphone. It came from behind the students. Jamshid sensed it first. He turned his head slightly and froze in terror. As the camera followed, the faceless entity finally appeared in full view. It hovered above the ground, its blank, smooth, white face reflecting no features, yet somehow giving the chilling impression that it was staring directly at them. Its long, twisted arms slowly rose, cutting through the air. As it reached toward them, the students stumbled backward, screaming, but the fog thickened behind them, pulling them inward. The creature didn't take a single step. It simply glided closer, closing the distance with unnatural softness. The creature came so close that the entire camera feed collapsed into static. White sparks flickered from the ceiling light. Even though the station had no power, something was surging through the air. The students tried to retreat, but the fog pushed them back, trapping them as if the station itself was closing around them. Suddenly, Amir's phone began recording on its own. The microphone first captured a deep, resonant hum, then a scream no human throat could produce. It was layered, thousands of voices crying out at once, echoing like agony from deep underground. As the creature approached with its elongated arms, a black slit appeared where its face should have been, like a void opening to swallow their voices. The camera fell to the floor, filming only the concrete. Then came a single, drawn-out, suffocating scream, and absolute silence. The footage ends there. The students were never found.